A poor mechanic buys expensive car, dealer calls the cops, then regrets it instantly. The midday sun blazed mercilessly over the cracked sidewalks of Willow Creek, a small town where everyone knew everyone or thought they did. Grease-stained and weary, Tom Benson wiped his brow with a tattered rag and stared at the gleaming showroom across the street. Dream big, die broke, he mumbled, half chuckling at the sight of vehicles he'd only touched under the hood, never from behind the wheel. Tom wasn't the kind of man you noticed in a crowd. He was quiet, humble, and forever carrying the smell of motor oil. Running a tiny garage that barely kept the lights on, Tom lived simply. Fixing engines wasn't just his job, it was his calling, his way of helping neighbors who couldn't afford shiny new things but still needed to get to work or take their kids to school. Today, however, wasn't like any other day. Inside his pocket was a cashier's check for $86,000, the full payment for a brand new, limited edition electric SUV, one of the most expensive cars in Willow Creek Motors. It had taken him 12 long years of saving, working double shifts, skipping vacations, and living on little more than dreams. He wanted this car not for status, but to honor a promise he had made to someone who mattered most, his late wife, Mary. One day, Tommy Mary had whispered weakly from her hospital bed, "You'll drive something you truly love. Not something broken like me." It was her joke. Her way of lightening the cruel burden cancer had laid upon them both. Today, Tom was ready to make that promise real. He straightened his threadbare jacket, pushed open the dealership's glass doors, and shuffled toward the front desk where a sharply dressed salesman sat texting on his phone. The man barely looked up. Parts department's around back," he said, voice dripping with assumption. Tom cleared his throat. "Actually, I'm here to buy the Falcon X in the front lot. The white one." The salesman blinked, looked Tom up and down the oil-stained boots, the calloused hands, the worn-out jeans, and then laughed. "Sir, do you even know how much that car costs?" he said, loud enough for a few nearby customers to glance over. Tom, cheeks burning, pulled the check from his pocket and quietly placed it on the counter. The salesman's smirk faltered. He leaned in, inspecting the paper as if it might be counterfeit. His face flushed. "Stay right here," he barked, snatching the check and disappearing into a glass-walled office. Moments later, 2 police officers strode through the front doors, one hand already resting on his holster. "Sir, we've been told you're attempting fraud," one officer said sternly. "Mind stepping outside with us?" The room froze. People stared. Some snickered. Tom's heart sank. "This isn't happening," he thought. "I'm not trying anything," Tom said quietly. "I saved for this. That check is real." The officers exchanged glances. One of them took the check and inspected it carefully, then made a call on his radio. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio. "Confirmed. Check issued from First National Bank. Funds verified." The dealer's face turned a sickly shade of gray. The officer turned to Tom, visibly softer now. "Sorry about the trouble, sir. You're clear." The police left. The room, however, was still buzzing, customers whispering, some sneaking pitying glances, others turning away in embarrassment. The salesman shuffled forward, trying to chuckle it off. Just standard procedure, you know. Gotta be careful these days." Tom looked him dead in the eyes. For the first time, he stood taller than he ever had in his life. "No," Tom said simply. "You didn't have to be careful. You had to be kind." The manager, who had been watching the disaster unfold, rushed over, apologizing profusely. In a move that shocked the entire showroom, he fired the salesman on the spot and insisted Tom allow him to personally finalize the sale and offered a full year of free maintenance. But Tom hesitated. He didn't want a car from people who judged a man by his boots. As Tom stood there, torn, a young woman from the waiting lounge approached. She wore a mechanic's uniform, one he recognized from a neighboring town. "Sir," she said, smiling shyly, "if you don't mind driving a few miles, my uncle owns a dealership. He'd be honored to sell you that model. He knows hard work when he sees it." Tom looked at her, then at the SUV gleaming in the corner. He smiled. "Lead the way," he said. 3 hours later, Tom rolled down the windows of his brand new Falcon X, inhaling the cool country air as he cruised down Main Street. Kids waved. Strangers cheered. Word had spread fast. He wasn't just the man who bought an expensive car. He was the man who taught Willow Creek that dignity can't be measured in dollars, and that you judge a soul not by the dirt on their hands, but by the strength in their heart. As the sun dipped low, Tom could almost hear Mary's laughter, riding along in the passenger seat, her spirit glowing as brightly as the setting sky. And for the first time in years, Tom felt rich beyond measure. Would you also like a slightly shorter or longer version depending on the audience or platform you're planning to use this for?